Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's guest photographer webinar in conjunction with the societies, as I mentioned. So this is the convention series. Tonight I'm joined by Richard P Walton, or Richie as I call him. So hi Rich, how you doing, mate?
Really good, thanks.
Yeah, but Richie, thanks for joining us tonight. I know we're looking at your photography and you're going to be telling us about sort of your journey and your life in photography, and then sharing some hints and tips. Tell us a little bit about how photography sort of got started before you, for you, and how you got into photography before I hand everything over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jay. Well, photography for me just kind of fell on my lap, really. I was never one of these people. A lot of people sort of talk about they had a camera when they were 2 years old and this kind of thing. For me, I was 18 years old, didn't really know what I was doing with my life. My brother, actually, my younger brother, who was talking about becoming a photographer, or at least going to college and doing photography, kind of planted the seed in my head. And I went to check out the college and saw the dark rooms and things back when it was still film, and just kind of fell in love with it, really. As soon as I saw the dark room, and I thought it was really cool, and gave it a go, and that was sort of history, really.
So Rich, I'm gonna pass you the screen, bud, and I'll tell you when we can see everything.
First of all, I'd just like to say thanks very much for tuning in and taking the time to listen to some of the things I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. Big thanks to Jay and everyone at the Photography Academy for inviting me to come and do this webinar, and a huge thanks to the SWPP and everyone else involved there. Which we'll talk about a little bit later on during the seminar. Let's just check that you can hear me okay. Is everything okay with that, Jay?
All good, mate. Hear you clearly, no problem at all.
Excellent. Okay, great. Well, let's get started. Okay, so my name is Richard P Walton, or Richie, or whatever you want to call me, really. Who am I? I'm an award-winning, full-time professional photographer and image maker, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. It's obviously talking about the qualified and award-winning things, obviously not in a pretentious way. Okay, so what have I done? I had a studio for 5 years, and I've been photographing babies, families, pets, just about anything you can think. You know, anything for money, basically. So I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. I got rid of my studio this time last year, so I'm sort of, you know, I've got away from photographing things really that I didn't like photographing, like babies and pets and all that kind of stuff. So what I mainly do now is I do photo training, avant-garde portraiture, wedding photography, fashion photography, commercial photography, and documentary photography, generally in my own time. Obviously, you can catch me at my website, and the best place for social media is probably Instagram. I'm not hugely into social media. I've just tried to sort of force myself back into Facebook a bit the last couple of weeks, but Instagram, I'm reasonably active on there. Okay, so what I'd like to share with you during the next hour really is just my experiences through getting into photography, realizing that I'd love to do it for a living, and then realizing that I could do it for a living and actually turn it into a career and make a living from photography. So I'm just really going to talk about things to me that are really important, and things that I kind of learned the hard way, really. So hopefully you guys don't have to. Some of this might be common sense to some of you guys, but really for me, with being self-taught and things, I all went to college, and college was okay, but university, which was a bit of a waste of time, and it was really kind of joining the SWPP and meeting other professionals within the industry. You know, that's really when my work sort of started to come on. So anybody who's not a member of the SWPP, for £10 a month or £100 a year, I think, it's probably the best money you can actually invest into your photography business, because it can be quite lonely being a photographer and being self-employed. So thanks to the SWPP, I've met photographers all over the world, which is pretty amazing. Okay, so let's get started. Oh, I hassled the Hoff. I'm going to move on from that one. Okay, so this is really important, and this is something that took me a long time to understand, and that basically a photograph is basically a memory of an experience. So if we can create good experiences, then the good photographs will come. we can easily get wrapped up in the kind of technical side of photography, and we kind of almost forget, the most important thing is, well, particularly when we're photographing people. So I'm a people photographer, so most of the photographs I take, there's some sort of interaction with people in there. So really for me now, as opposed to getting too stressed about the technical side of things, the most important thing during a shoot, particularly a paid shoot, but not even just paid shoot, any shoot really, is making sure that the customer, client, or whatever you want to call it, is getting a good experience, because that's what they're going to remember. And I'll touch on that a little bit later as we go along. Okay, so I'm going to talk about things, like I said, things for me that when I was sort of getting into photography, I thought were really important and would really make the difference between me going from being a rubbish photographer to a good photographer. And technology is a huge thing for this. I mean, I was in college at the time. I worked in Jessop's part-time. Didn't have a lot of money to spend on technology and all the latest gear and gadgets and things, and it almost makes you feel a little bit sort of inadequate, and you're taking rubbish photographs and you're almost looking for an easy way out, really. And unfortunately there is no easy way out. You just got to put the time in and just really develop your passion for taking photographs. Okay, so what I'd like to say is basically forget about technology and think about the three main most important things when it comes to the technical side of things with photography, and that is ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. So really for me, it wouldn't make any difference if I was shooting on Canon, Nikon, Olympus, Fuji. Photography, the basic principles of photography, which is all we really need to capture good images, is basically these three things: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. So everything I do, or I say everything I do, I mean, this is 12 years of getting to where I am now and understanding the important things, and breaking things down to the most simplest way in my mind. Photography is very, very technical, and you can start getting really tech, but break things down, and then there's less things to think about, and we can talk about that experience and really capturing your own vision. So ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. Okay, so this is all you need to make good photographs. As long as you can have a camera that can be manually operated, then you're doing okay. So if you sort of sat there thinking, oh, I'm using Canon, maybe I should be, upgrading to Fuji, or maybe I should use Nikon, or really for me, I don't think that really makes any difference. Okay, it maybe makes slight difference in, maybe the colors of a Canon are slightly different to Nikon, but we're talking about real things that just don't really matter, and nobody really cares about. So just think about that. Remind yourself that ISO, aperture, shutter speed. If I go outside and take a photograph now, these are the three things from a technical point of view that I'm going to be thinking about with the camera in my hands. And the main thing that I'm thinking about is my vision and whatever is in front of me. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so what gear do I use? We'll just quickly skim over this just so you guys can get an idea. It says two 5D Mark IIs. That's actually changed. It's a 5D Mark II and a 5D Mark I. There's a Tamron 28 to 75mm 2.8 lens, Canon fisheye, and a Canon 20mm. And then I use the Elinchrom Quadras, which are brilliant because they're basically a studio light that can go anywhere and everywhere. Really easy light. The battery lasts for ages, so that's something reasonably new, and I've got nothing but good stuff to say about that. And a monopod. So the gear again is literally when I'm out on a shoot, particularly weddings or anything really, I don't want to be bogged down. I'm too tight to pay an assistant. So the most important thing is, can I work quickly? Can I run around? Can I jump up trees, jump up walls, lie on the ground with the small amount of gear possible? Okay, so that's that. Okay, so lighting. Now this is, I can't stress how important this is, and I feel so stupid myself for probably being a photographer for probably sort of 6, 7, maybe even 8 years before I really respected lighting and really understood that actually lighting is absolutely everything. So, and this is this was major for me. Really, as I say, stupid being self-taught. Nobody really kind of told me how important light was. as obvious as it might be. So again, thinking about lighting, and light is everything. Everything we see, and it's all thanks to light. So, but let's break it down in a simple way that we can understand this, and we can actually apply the light that is available, or the light that we bring in, to make good photographs. Okay, so as I said, this is the most important thing. Okay, we can have bad composition, bad posing, bad everything. We'll still have a photograph. No light, no photograph, and that's how important light is. Light is absolutely everything. So let's move on. Okay, so thinking about breaking down lighting, and how we can understand to manipulate light, make the most of available light and all the rest of that, and breaking things down. And equally as I broke things down with the camera, when it comes to the camera, I'm thinking about ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. When it comes to lighting, it's just three simple things to quickly run through in your brain. And for me now, it's great to be in a position to understand both the camera and lighting, so I can really choose how I want my photographs to look. The crazy thing is, I think most creative people, most people now sat at home who like photography, can probably visualize images in their head. And for me, for years, I was thinking, right, this is going to be a great image. And I can see it in my head. I take it on the camera and it looks terrible. And this went on for a long time. Now, with these simple techniques, I can actually see it in my head and get it on the back of the camera, which is a really cool thing. And I think from a professional point of view, if you are a professional photographer, this is really important. And although for me, I didn't understand a lot of this stuff for probably the first half of being a photographer, I'd be still charging people money, and I didn't really have a clue. So, it's really worth investing time into this kind of stuff. So let's have a little look. Lighting, direction, source, and quality. These are the only three things that I really need to think about. And the great thing about that is it's easy, because it's just three simple things. Okay, so direction, source, and quality. So let's give you a few sort of ideas so you can apply these things to your own photography. Direction, where is the light coming from? This is so important, particularly in portraiture, people photography. The direction of light will make or break the portrait, and this is huge for me. And understanding how important that is, it really means the difference between getting good portraits and absolutely terrible portraits. And the source, so natural light, available light, or flashes and video lights, etc. And then obviously the quality of light, so soft light, hard light, etc. So there is no right or wrong way, and this is the great thing about photography. For me, photography is infinite in the sense that you're never going to master it, because there's literally so much on offer. You go to 10 lifetimes and you would still be learning new things about photography. But as I said, the basic things, light, and this is the way I break light down, and this is how I can manipulate light. I bring my own lights into achieving good portraiture. Okay, so tips for helping you on all three areas. So direction of light. Okay, this is something for me that when I look back at my earlier photography, and with my Photoshop skills that I've developed over the years, recently I was clearing out a hard drive, and I thought I'll have a look through some old photographs and see maybe now with my Photoshop skills I could revamp them, and I've got some new stuff for the portfolio that's been taken years ago. But the crazy thing was, looking through the work, and this is only sort of 5-6 years ago, even with Photoshop, if the direction of light is bad on a portrait, then it's really, really hard to do anything with it. Shadows and things on the face. So, as I say, working quick, for me, something that I do whenever I shoot is, and I think it's the nature of photography these days, it's different. I don't just shoot for one image. Very rarely, anyway, most of the times I'm shooting, I'm either working for somebody who wants a lot of photographs, expects a lot of photographs, or I'm looking to give them a lot of photographs so I can upsell and make more money from the shoot. So I'm shooting a lot of variety. I work quite quickly, so I need methods that work for me in any situation. wherever I am. So this is the unicorn method, and this is a brilliant way to light people, you know, in any situation. And it's just basically imagining that they had a unicorn horn grown out of their head, or you can imagine something else, up to you. This is grown out of my head here. So basically, when I'm shooting portraiture, wherever this horn points, I'm assuming you can see me on the webcam doing this. This is where the main light, or the light that is going to be lighting their face, is going to come from this direction. And for me, that's amazing because, as I say, the most important thing is capturing my vision, working quickly. I don't want to be thinking or playing around with the lights for too long. So the first thing I'm going to do in this situation is get my shots set up, get them in position, and then I can quickly bring the light in, you know, the last minute, just with the unicorn method. And I know this is going to give good light on the face, okay, because we're basically looking to, with portraiture, to slim the face. We want to create shadows and things, depth in the face, okay. We're working with a two-dimensional medium, and we're trying to create depth and give the 3D effect, and direction of light really is going to help you with this. Okay, so moving on from direction of light. Okay, so source. Okay, so always think about your available light first, and then go from there. You know, for me, I love flash photography, and I'll talk a little bit about why as we sort of go along. But flash photography, it is amazing, but again, without understanding, you know, you can take terrible photographs, not understanding, you know, how to use the flash. So source is really important, because the light sources, take where I'm sat now, for example, I've got a couple of lamps which are lighting me. I'm going to take that into consideration if I want to get the ambient light, and then I can bring my own flashes in if need be. So always think about the source. I use one flash a lot of the time, mainly again because it's easier and quick, and out of laziness, less things to carry, and you can do loads with one flash. And people sometimes say, oh, you only use one flash. I don't really see it as a flash, I see it as a light source, and it's another light source to add to the available light that is around me. Okay, so unless I'm in a pitch black room, obviously I'm always got more than one light source. So really always think about the source, you know, where the light is coming from before you go. And I used to come in with 6 flashes, and I looked the part, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I looked pro, but I wasn't. Okay, so quality. Okay, so this is something which is again huge, because understanding the quality of light, we really need to think about the mood we're going for. So quality of light would be the difference between, say, a bare bulb flash or a 6-foot softbox. Okay, obviously the bare bulb flash is a hard light, the 6-foot softbox is the soft light. So again, as photographers, we get to decide what we think is, you know, what we need for this particular image. This image here that we've got on the screen, this is shot with a bare flash, and it's absolutely fine because it's a kind of edgy image. Portrait, her face is quite small in it, okay, so we're not really too worried about real soft light and kind of beauty lighting. So bare flash is absolutely fine for this kind of thing, and it's quite, you know, you'll probably see if you look through my work, it's quite rare that I shoot close-up portraits of people's faces, just because I just don't think, you know, personally for me, I don't like, you know, real close-up shots of my face, so I don't see why anybody else would of their face. So I'm always looking about building the environment in, and you know, telling stories and things. So one bare flash off on the left, and this does the job here. So because, you know, I'm just telling you these things because people will say, like, oh, you know, you shouldn't use bare flash, you know, you should use modifiers and things. And again, there is no right or wrong in photography. As long as you understand what you're using and the, you know, the effects you're going for, then you know, of course you can use bare flash. You know, you can do whatever you want. But moving on now to a soft lighting example. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about with the close-up headshots. Okay, this was for a shoot that I did for a company, and you know, they need to be close-up shots. So this is when I bring the big 6-foot softbox in, and you know, make sure the light is really soft and, you know, flattering to the subject. So this is the difference. So if we just flip back and forth, this is bare flash, This is a 6 foot softbox, and you can see the difference is huge. The reality of taking a 6 foot softbox here, in this direct building would be, for me, it would just be way too much effort for the results I would get back. So one flash would be fine for that. So again, thinking about the quality of light and the mood you're going for, and then you just bring in the tools for the job. Okay, so moving on now, this is don't try and run before you can walk, okay? So don't let your lack of technical knowledge stop you from taking good photos. Learn the basics, use them when light can produce great results, okay? So again, this is where, for me, when I was at a position when I was taking terrible photos and I'm just looking for any answers, and I want these overnight answers because my photos are terrible. I've been doing it for 6 years, and I'm still not taking good photographs. The basics of photography, I always say to people, understand photography. You can go out with one lens, one camera, and learn, and you can take great photographs. Some of the best photographs, some of the most iconic photographs in the world were taken this way. Just, no fancy gear, real basic technology. So think about that, don't let it stop you from going out and being creative. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I really wish I had some flashes to do off-camera flash, but I can't afford them, or whatever. Don't let that stop you from going out and having fun and learning to take good photographs with basic equipment. Okay, this is just going to get into a kind of mishmash of things that I think are really cool and really important being a photographer. And one of the main things, people always say to me, quite often when I do seminars and things, people they're quick to go in the bag and pull out the huge long lenses, okay, so the big 70 to 200s, 300mm lenses and things, and really for me, I don't own a lens. My standard zoom lens, the end of that is the longest lens I've got, really. So if I want to go in closer, I have to physically go in closer. Wide angle photography for me is just so much more interactive. And again, as I say, being a people photographer, it's all about interacting. It's all about the experiences for me, and that's the great thing about photography, is that it puts you in this situation. So getting in there with wide lenses. Okay, this image here, this was taken during a protest last year, and this image really wouldn't be. Well, this image wouldn't exist with a long lens. I mean, if I was stood across the road, with a long lens, the police guy wouldn't have seen me. They wouldn't have, this guy here on the left is actually wearing a bra. That guy wouldn't have seen me, and the horse probably wouldn't have seen me. He's looking up there. I mean, this image, I always like this. It just looks like everyone's really cheesed off. The police guy looks cheesed off. This guy looks cheesed off. I mean, these guys are kind of rivals, and then the horse is probably cheesed off because he's got this guy sat on his back. But yeah, so getting in those wide angles really is where the experience comes in, and this, you get some great, you really get the expressions of things by being in close. So don't always go for the long lens, and don't be afraid to get right up in people's faces. I mean, this, people say about portraiture, wide angle photography, you can't do for portraiture, this and that. As I say, there's no right or wrong. Get the fisheye in their face, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay, so another thing to think about is get the camera in different places. Okay, so for me, my sort of story as a photographer was getting into photography at the age of 18, obviously not having any clue about photography, and then looking at other photographers and going through learning the basics and things. Well, not even learning the basics. I mean, I've only learned the basics the last sort of 6 years. 12 years ago, I don't know what I was doing, but as a photographer, we can be limited to just sort of stood up with the sort of, moving the head around, kind of like a Dalek robot, just like this, okay? Getting the camera in different places opens up the whole new world, for not only the images that you can capture, but for yourself. You start looking at the world from, different viewpoints, and it's really, really interesting. So yeah, so if you feel the need to take what I would call the safe shots, which don't take very long at all, bang with bang, safe shots, then think, right, where can the camera go? And when digital came in, this really became, there's no excuse anymore, because we can hold the camera up in the air, we can lie on the ground and point it up, we can take We can take these sort of shots, and if they don't work, it doesn't really matter too much. So, as I say, don't be afraid to get the camera in different places. Okay, I just feel like I'm literally talking to my computer, so I'm just going to check. Jay, are we okay?
Mate, we're all good. It isn't a it isn't a case that you don't have any questions, but a lot of them are sort of generic questions, so I hung on to them. But as you have
Yeah.
stopped, and before we do get carried away, there was something you mentioned earlier on, so let's ask it now. You mentioned that obviously the SWPP helped you get going. So in what respect did they sort of move you on in your journey, if you like?
Oh wow, great! I mean, we could do a whole hour just talking about this, but I'll just roughly give you a quick idea. And I've always, and I don't, the only reason I, big the SWPP up is purely because I'm really grateful for what they have achieved, how they accepted me, and that they've been brilliant to me over the years. So basically, the SWPP, I've got my friends John Jenkins and Andy Davis, two photographers I used to work for in a studio when I was still in university. They signed me up with the SWPP, and I kind of went from there really. So I went down to Focus. This is bang on 10 years ago. I did my L in Focus, the licentiate panel, which back then was a printed submission. And I went down, submitted that, achieved the L, which was really cool. And really from there then just understood that I wasn't the photographer I thought I was. So, 10 years ago I was 21. I was young and dumb basically, and I thought I was great, particularly at weddings. I thought I was going to be great. I thought, oh, these older guys, they're all going to be past it. I'm going to come in and show them how it's done. And then I went and, when I started to look within the SWPP, I really realised that my photography was actually pretty bad, and I just scraped the L. And I did scrape it, and people quite often ask me, "Oh, what was your L panel like?" Nobody's ever seen that. I don't know if they've got it online. Hopefully, they haven't. But I was in weddings, and I literally scraped it, and they were kind of in an ahhing, and I managed to get it. And then from there, started going to the convention, and really kind of the main thing was meeting people. As I said, met people from all over the world through the SWPP. The convention um, really just showed me, like, I always thought photography was cool. When I went to the first SWPP convention, I was like, wow, this is even cooler than I thought, because there's all these people, there's all this stuff going on, and you can go and see these photographers, because when you're in college and uni, you're dealing with the same tutors day in, day out, and, they don't really teach you anything. They just send you on your way and give you a few months to come back, give you the brief and get on and crack on with it. But then with SWPP, I'm going to the convention and I'm going to see people, Gordon McGowan, wedding photographer, um, Trevor Fayugri, Mark Cleggon, all these people, and I'm going, wow, these guys are here, and they're telling me, how to become a good photographer. And it really just went from there. I kind of, I was doing seminars and things at the convention. I started helping out at the convention, and then obviously getting the L, realizing that I could go through the kind of ranks, so to speak, and I went for the A, probably 5, 6 years later, and then eventually went for the F. So that journey from the L to the F, I mean, we're talking a 10-year period, and it's absolutely unbelievable. And I don't think I would be where I am today if it wasn't for the SWPP. And that's quite a big thing to say, because I was very passionate about photography anyway, but I think it would have taken me a lot longer to get where I am if I hadn't been to these seminars, met these people, and participate in competitions and qualifications and things, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. But I would say to anybody, particularly, there is no excuse when you're a photographer. Photography is an expensive thing to be into, whether you do it as a hobby or as a profession. The cameras cost a lot of money, software costs, everything costs a lot of money. The SWPP doesn't cost a lot of money. I mean, it's a tenner a month or £100 a year. So really, I would say to anybody out there who wants to improve photography, even if you don't want to improve your photography, even if just on a social level you want to meet other photographers who share similar passions to yourself, then join up to the SWPP.
Brilliant,
How's
mate.
that?
Yeah, great. You answered that fully there. Let me just have a quick look, because I know we've got a lot, and I know that you're going to cover some of these things that you've been asked about anyway. Can we see your
Yeah.
L panel? No, they can't.
I,
um,
I'd have to dig it out. It's on an old hard drive somewhere.
um, somebody's asking specifically about a mood that was very blue. So I presume I think it's the one where you're talking about the bare flash. Can you just tell us about
Flash, yeah.
how you got the very blue look?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the blue look is a bit of a phase I went through, really. So sometimes I do it now, not as much as I used to, and it's really simple, and it's just a case of changing the white balance to. I always say the wrong white balance because I can never forget which one is called. But basically, there's only half a dozen options with white balance, so choose one, and there is one that gives you the kind of blue tone. So, and this can be achieved in Lightroom afterwards, so whether you do it in camera or afterwards, I shoot everything in RAW. Yeah, so this is done with white balance, and then obviously contrast. The more contrast you add then in post-production really enhances that blue. So there's nothing too crazy about that one.
Brill. And the last one for now, because I know we've got loads to get through. So you talked about Photoshop. Do you have any favorite Photoshop effects or techniques?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, God, I'm just sorry, I just checked the time, and I need to speed things up. Um, Photoshop techniques, I approach Photoshop exactly the same way as I approach taking the photographs, and that's basically with a method. Okay, so I've got a method that I use. So every single photograph you see is being shot in the same way, or at least with the same technical ideas. And the same with Photoshop. It's just basically dodge and burn. So quickly, just to tell you guys, it's basically lightening and darkening certain parts of the image. And that's basically it.
Brill, mate. I know we've got loads to get through. I mean, we'll do our best to sort of run to time, but we will, stay through and ask all Richie your questions if we do run over. But Rich, you crack
Yeah.
on, mate. Obviously, they are asking the questions, and I'll keep them all ready for the question time, pal.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay, well I'll just go through these quickly because I guess you can always, these are going to be on, this whole thing is on the website, so you guys can pause it and go back and things, I guess. So composition, basically opening your eyes, and this is the thing I'm most grateful for as a photographer, is once you open your eyes, which really comes through photography, because before I took photographs I used to walk around looking 2 feet in front of me. Now I walk around looking at the whole world around me, which is an amazing thing. Because obviously we live in an amazing place. So you start to appreciate your surroundings. So I used to blame locations all the time. When I was a younger photographer, I was always blaming something, whether it was the kit or I need this, I need that. The locations around where I live are no good and this and that. Now it's nonsense. There's good there's locations anywhere, literally anywhere. I'll take photographs anywhere now, which is really good. So just really, there's always something, just kind of look everywhere and open your eyes, and composition starts to kind of flow, really. Okay, so as I say here, locations, when your eyes are open, they're great locations everywhere, and this is a great thing, really. You can see things, walking down the street, maybe there's a dirty old wall with, bricks hanging off it or paint peeling on it, and, you see this, it's like, wow, most other people think you're crazy, but, I appreciate everything around me now, which is really thanks to photography. So that's brilliant. But yeah, so there's good locations everywhere. Just really open your eyes and see things. This was an old farm, literally 10 minutes up the road from me, which was a pretty cool place to shoot. Okay, this is quite a big one too for me, and it's don't forget to push your client's limits as well as your own. People sometimes say to me, "Oh, Rich, my bride and groom wouldn't do that, they wouldn't do this," and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute as to how you can make clients do the kind of things you want to do. But here, this is a wedding I photographed in Cyprus, and the bride and groom were up a tree over some water, and people would say, "Oh my God, she could have fallen in this and that." You can get hit by a bus if you cross the road, but pushing the client's limits, as I said about earlier, the photograph reminds them of the experience. And for me, this is, I mean, if I can say one thing tonight that hopefully can sink in with people, this is probably it. As running a photography business, as a professional photographer, the photographs remind them of that experience. Okay, so this changed my business around, changed the way I approach things, and you know, it's much better now because I have much more fun when I shoot, because I appreciate that the fun is the most important thing. The photograph could be average. If it was a good experience, it will remind them of that. So you know, for me, a great little thing which I always use this example because it was brilliant. My mum and dad, they went on holiday a few years back, and my mum came back with a photo which they'd taken on the timer. They were sat on a beach somewhere, and my mum put the camera on the table and put it on timer. Took a photo of her and my dad sat at this place, and then I didn't see the photo until it was framed, and it was printed and framed, and it was going up on the wall. And the photo, 75% of the photo was an out of focus ashtray. And I obviously I see it and I'm thinking, I didn't say, Mum, this is it's not a very good photo, but my mum was excited, and I looked at it and I thought, okay, yeah. So then, time went on, and it kind of bugged me for days. I was thinking, why is that one gone up on the wall? Why was that one printed and framed? And then I realised that it reminded my mum and dad of that time. Okay, so regardless of how bad the photo was, or how good it could have been, when my mum and dad look at it, it reminds them of being sat at that beach in Greece or wherever they were. And then I went, right, now I get it, now I understand. And this is why I talk about the experience is absolutely everything, because it's going to remind them. For me, for years, I was so worried and wrapped up about technical and, becoming, I want to be the best photographer, I want to be really good. And I was more concerned about tweaking my light over here, back and forth, my light meter, because I was more concerned about getting good photographs to please other photographers, and try and be like this really good photographer, as opposed to giving my client, or I don't like that word, giving the people I'm photographing a good experience. So push their limits and push your own, and that's a great thing about photography for me. I mean, when I left school, I was shy, quiet. I would never have thought I'd be in this position, talking openly to other people. So amazing for that. Okay, start taking your camera everywhere, even when you're getting drunk. Okay, this is one thing, this is really cool. Don't think the camera is going to be, like this precious thing. And for years, they cost quite a bit of money to get them insured, and it's fine, and you sort of like treat this camera like a little newborn baby. The camera now, to me, is literally goes everywhere. And there's no problem with taking it when you're getting drunk. I started doing this when I was on the Gumball 3000 rally, really because I didn't have a choice. If I didn't drink and get drunk, I was just tired and I couldn't go the distance. What I came to realise is the photographs the next morning, they were no better than they would have been if I was sober, but they were no worse either, so that was pretty cool. So take the camera everywhere you go, and this is when moments come about. Okay, work your way. This is just very quickly going to get onto this one. There's a bunch of things here which I don't think we're going to have time for, but some of these are really quite cool, so we'll just get through them. Work your way. This is really great, and especially if you're looking for tuition and you're looking at other photographers, more than likely they're going to work a certain way. Okay, so maybe it might be that they use a video light, they might encourage loads of flashes. Some people say, oh, a natural light's the only way. Okay, as I say earlier, there's no right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. But as long as you work your way, which is the way that works for you. So for me, it happens to be flash. I love flash because flash is so versatile. I can use flash indoors, I can use flash outdoors, I can use flash in any situation. So from a professional point of view, I can go out comfortably knowing that whatever situation I land myself in, I can take photographs because of flash. So if you're sat at home and you're thinking, well, I love natural light, stick to natural light. Forget about flash, forget about video lights, forget about everything else, and just concentrate on what works for you or feels comfortable for you. Some people are very technical. They've got no problem with turning up with 6 flashes and getting great images with them. For me, as I say, one flash most of the time is a comfortable way for me to work and then crack on and enjoy the experience. Okay, so Photoshop, embrace it. And there's a story behind this image which involves photoshopping in this Gumball 3000 light trail. And basically with this, I was at the Gumball events a few years ago, photographing this Batman car, and a bunch of other photographers came and started doing the same thing. I was light painting the car with a flash gun, and I needed to do something different. So I took this image from the back, which was different. They were photographing the side, and I knew I could just Photoshop this in afterwards, and it would be something different. So embracing Photoshop is really important. And again, I could talk about that forever. Dodge and burn. We're just going to fly through these really quickly. So excuse me if I'm going too quick. Dodge and burn. This method works. It did in the darkroom, and it does in Photoshop and Lightroom. Lightening and darkening parts of the image, and this is the only thing you need to know with post-production. There doesn't need to be any technical things. It doesn't need to be hundreds spent on actions and things. There's no, there's no one-click answer. Maybe now and again you might buy a set of actions, click them, and they look good on that particular image. You click the action on the next image, and it looks dreadful. So by forgetting those things and looking for the easy answer, just spend a couple of minutes on each image, dodging and burning and going through. As I say, good photography, there was always good photography long before digital photography. Digital photography is so new to us, and dodging and burning is still a technique that really works. And think about how your own ideas on life can influence your work. And this is where the individual comes out from you. And as a photographer, we've got the blessing of being able to capture things and show people whatever we have up in our brain, which is pretty impressive. For me, I can't draw, so photography really is the next best thing, and it's much easier than drawing, because drawing is hard, but anybody can learn photography. So use your own ideas, and don't be afraid to put your own ideas out there in the world. This is what is going to start getting you noticed. Okay, don't just try and be another photographer, try and become an artist, and this is how you're going to move forward. And workflow has to be quick. Okay, this is a before and after. This on here on the left is a standard British dull grey flat wedding shot. This over here on the right has been tweaked to a sunset-y kind of vibe. This takes a couple of minutes in Photoshop, okay, and obviously we haven't got time to go into that. But the workflow has to be quick, particularly with quantity. Like I said, for myself, I shoot a lot of variety and quantity. It's all well and good being able to do this in Photoshop, but if it takes an hour, then obviously realistically that's not going to be good, because I haven't got time to sit and spend an hour on each photograph. So get something again that works for you quickly, stick to that, and just master that technique. Okay, this is quickly talking about the business side of things, and I'll just quickly go through, and then we'll go into some more answers and things. Okay, so the business side of things, for me, I'm not a businessman, nowhere near a businessman. I'm somebody who likes taking photographs, and the fact that I can make a living from it, is amazing. So these are some of the things that I came to realize, can help you from a business point of view, and originality. And obviously in this day and age with the internet and so many amazing photographers out there, it's hard to be original, but if you are trying to be original, at least that's better than just trying to be another photographer taking posh passport photos. Okay, so striving to be unique. Again, I mean, striving to be unique. We all are unique in the sense that we look different, we think differently. So really, every photographer should be creating different work. You've got to look inside yourself, and that's where the real ideas and the real creativity is in here. It's not out here. Okay, so the unique selling point, this is kind of something that most marketeers and business people will tell you, but this is probably something, the only sort of traditional sort of marketing method I kind of use, and this is the unique selling point. And I always say to people, and I try and ask myself on a regular basis, I say, how are you unique? What makes you different from the photographer down the road, or all these other photographers? What is going to make you different? And ask yourself that question. Okay, this is where I talk about just being another photographer. You should never look at the photographer down the road and base things on what he or she is doing. This is the biggest mistake you can make from a photography point of view and from a business point of view. Don't worry about other photographers, okay? They're not going to, they just don't worry about it. It doesn't matter if they're charging £2,000, if they're charging £200, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. You've got to be your own person, and your photography and your business is going to be different to you than it is the guy down the road. So don't worry about other photographers. Okay, this is probably one, because I know we're kind of running on time. I mean, I'm happy to sit here all night and talk about photography, but I know we got to kind of try and keep this kind of sweet. Um, this this will be the big one that really changes what you start attracting into your photography business. Okay, so what you show is what you'll attract. For me, I only show things on my website that I enjoyed shooting and that I would happily shoot again. And I don't put things on there that people expect a photographer to have. You know, the wedding website, for example, you're not going to see cake shots, you're not going to see ring shots, you're not going to see close-ups of flowers. Obviously, I take all that because I'm a wedding photographer and I tell the story of their day, but I want them to come to me for the things that I really like to do, and by that I just show show the things I want to attract. So someone said to me years ago about, they said, Richie, my wedding couples would never, they would never do that. You know, they'd never lie on stairs and, be up trees or, whatever it is. And we had a conversation. I was kind of trying to give a bit of advice, and it quickly ended with her giving me a business card which had what I would refer to as a posh passport photo. The posh passport photo is a waist-up shot of a bride and groom stood by a bush or something. You know, it's a traditional photo, or maybe the 10x8 for grandma. Maybe we can refer to it as that. You know, this is the one grandma's going to put on a mantelpiece. But you can't put that out there and then expect them to have somebody who's going to be really outgoing and doing all this crazy stuff. You know, if they booked you on this, I mean, if this is the front of your image, that's what they're going to expect. I mean, that's why they're booking you. So whatever you want to shoot, this is what you need to show. This is what you'll attract. And it's really as simple as that. And when I understood this, and I started changing it, because, initially we think, right, I use wedding photography because it's a good example for this, but this applies to any photography. Whatever photography you do, we think, well, I'm a wedding photographer, I like my wedding website, like the cake shop, the shoes, the rings, all this kind of stuff that just anybody can do. And people show me photos of close-ups of flowers and rings and shoes and things. I mean, any professional photographer can photograph that kind of thing. Okay, really, you want to show the creativity and the things that you love to do, and the things that make you unique. Then those people will start knocking. I can say to my wedding couples, within reason, anything. Like getting them above trees, getting them on walls, getting them lying down, because they know that's the kind of thing I like to do. That's where they book me. That's what they're looking at on my website. Okay, very quickly, it's not just about social networking. Okay, loads of people today are like wrapped up in, oh, Facebook this, and you've got to blog every day, you've got to tell people you're amazing, you've got to do all this thing in this virtual world, and it's just, for me, absolutely not. Look at this guy here. This is a protest. He's at the very front, saving the world one text at a time. He should be, his phone should be in his pocket, and he should be showing people, there is kind of views. Okay, so social media, yeah, okay, here we go. Real life networking is way more fun. There's stories behind all these images. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Okay, we can just quickly get this one in. And real life networking is way more fun. Okay, this is a photograph here from a wedding I shot last year in Ibiza. This is Tony Hawk, who is a skateboarder. When I was sort of 15, 16, I used to play Tony Hawk computer games, and through real life networking, here I am meeting Tony Hawk, and I've met him a number of times at the Gumball event and things, all through getting out and meeting people and getting to know people, and sometimes people say to me, oh, it's who you know, and absolutely it is who you know, but if you're not out there getting to know people, then you're never going to start building these relationships. So no relationship online will ever be anywhere close to a face-to-face conversation with somebody. And it doesn't matter how good you are with words and things, there's no emotion and no expression online. So this is where I say boycott Facebook from a business point of view and from a social point of view, if you can. Okay, I'm just going to skip through some of these just to find the the best ones. Okay, here we go. This is really good. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Again, through photography, and this is for me. I mean, there's so many things I'm grateful for photography. I mean, photography literally is my life. And you know, there's just so many things, you know, and I've got photography to thank, and this is one of them. Okay, don't be afraid to be yourself. The great thing about photography is you've got this tool in between yourself, what's in front of you, and the vision that you've got here. And this is where things really start to happen when you start feeling comfortable and saying, do you know what? I'm going to try this, I'm going to do this, and I don't care what other people think, and that's the great thing. I can never care about what other people think, particularly other photographers, until other photographers start paying the mortgage and things for you, which is probably unlikely. And think outside the box always, okay? So as I say, you know, think outside the box. What can I do different here? Okay, if we think we need to take the traditional shots, take the traditional shots, then say, right, we've got a digital camera, let's do something different. What can we stand on, lie on, you know, just get the camera in different places. Okay, this is a quick one, very quickly, I'm just checking the time. Okay, we're nearly this, we're going to be like 10 minutes over, if that's okay with Jay. Hope how you look on the day is just as important as how the photographs turn out. Again, talking about earlier, talking about experiences, giving people experiences. People talk about weddings and they talk about marketing and advertising and all this kind of thing. The best thing you can do to book more weddings is look good during the weddings you're photographing. You know, generally there's going to be 70 plus people there. You know, I would say for me, most weddings seem to have 100 people, so that's 100 people. My advert is me on that day. I'm gonna be, being the person I'm trying to be, or the person I am, and you know, just leaving that impression with people, making sure people will remember me. So if they ever think about a wedding photographer, they're going to hopefully think about me, and that's the aim of the game. So that's the advert there. Okay, so how you look on the day is just as important as the photos turn out. Okay, this is a photograph I did in Plymouth. I'm stood on a car, with a camera up on the monopod, getting this kind of bird's eye view shot. They think I'm crazy. Oh my God, he was stood on his car. They're back in with the guests. Oh, he was up on his car in the middle of the road. Traffic was stopped and all this kind of thing. It gets a good talking point. I'm not telling everyone to go and stand on their car though. Competitions, okay? Let's just see how Jay's doing that end, because this is kind of another section which I would like to talk about. So we'll see if we can squeeze in another 5 minutes. Maybe we can.
It's all good with me, mate. So I'm more than happy for you to carry on. But obviously, we are losing a few people, so I don't want to lose too many. So yeah, let's talk about competitions. Already having lots of questions being asked. Bring him back. Bring him back. So I know you will. So it won't be the first or the last. It won't be the last webinar where you'll be seeing Richie join us. But I know he's more than happy to do some more. But loads of great feedback. So yes, mate. Let's keep going. But like I said, we are starting to lose people. I know we've got to talk about your masterclasses and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So let's do competitions, and then we'll promise them that we'll bring you back sooner rather than later as well, mate.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, absolutely. And thanks everybody for staying, and the people who got the go. Thanks for coming as well. But this is like 100 mile an hour. This is probably 70% because I'm rushing. But as I say, thanks. For some people wanting me to come back, and hopefully if Jay and the guys will have me, then I can be a bit more specific. This is just kind of a mishmash of all kinds of stuff, but hopefully these points are going to help. Okay, so moving on now, just going to quickly talk about competitions and awards and things, because people say to me, and I hear people say they're pointless, and what's the point in this? Your customers don't care, they don't know about these things and all the rest of it. Okay, and this is absolutely fine if you think that, but it's all about personal development. Okay, and this is, I don't enter competitions to show off to people and say, I win all these awards and things, and I don't go for qualifications to do the same thing. Okay, it's about personal development, and this is where we touched on earlier, the difference in 10 years joining the SWPP and going through the ranks in 10 years. The photography come on unbelievably. A big part of this is entering competitions, and not just entering competitions, keeping an eye on competitions, following competitions, seeing what wins, watching the judging at the SWPP convention. Anybody can go for free for 2 days, 2 full days. Some of the best photographers in the country sat down judging images, and it's an amazing experience. So whether you enter competitions or not, follow them and look at the kind of stuff that's out there. And the SWPP 20 by 16 print competition is world-class photography. So there's loads to be learnt at that one. So competitions, this image here, and this was shot on an old iPhone 3, which was when I was working away at some snowboard event. I say snowboard event, it was actually a charity event. And this was shot on an iPhone 3, and for a long time I was trying to get a gold image in the SWPP in the monthly competitions with an iPhone image, really just to prove to myself that it's not about the gear. Tried and tried and tried. Eventually this image came through and managed to, win a gold award. So this was shot on a smartphone and it got a gold award. So this just proves so much to me, and hopefully it will prove to other people that going out and buying new gear isn't really going to make much of a difference. Qualifications, the same thing. It's the process of the qualification that is the most valuable part. The award and the certificate at the end of it is nice to remind you, but really the process. And I went through, I got my fellowship in 2012. So from L to the F, it's just 7 or 8 years. This process is the real valuable part, and this is what made me be a really good photographer, and you're going to get critique and help along the way and working towards these qualifications. So think about them. Okay, awards. Okay, this is something, again, I'm not here to say, oh, I've won all these awards and things. I'm just talking about ways that I've discovered that you can manipulate the game, so to speak, the game of life, the game of photography, and awards are a great way to do that, because eventually if you can win an award, then that will lead on to things, marketing and things. Okay, so these are just a few things I had. This was an interview I had on BBC Radio Wales on a Sunday afternoon. This was for Open Avant-Garde Photographer of the Year with the SWPP. Now, an advert on the radio cost a fortune. They got me down. I was on there. It was brilliant experience just for that. This is the Wales on Sunday, which is a local newspaper. I had a more or less a double-page spread. Again, this would cost a fortune in an advert. There's a professional photographer magazine. This was my fellowship. They did a piece on it, which was, again, getting my name out there. This is all things for free, essentially. And just through entering competitions and keep persisting and persisting. I mean, I enter competitions, a lot. Obviously you're not going to win them all, but keep going. Eventually you will. And as I say, study competitions and learn how they work and things. South Wales Argus, this was cool. Okay, so and again, these are the kind of businessy things that you can get from winning awards and competitions and things, but these are the most important things, is they develop your photography, they build your confidence, and they give you credibility. So tell people about these achievements in a humble way, of course, so you don't have to be, telling people how great you are, but just, don't be afraid to tell people about your achievements in a humble way. And we're flying through this now. Be an individual. Okay, this image here, I'm glad we got to this, because this always causes a bit of controversy. Be an individual. Use your name. Okay, this is a big thing. Use your real name everywhere. Don't be afraid to use your name. Don't worry about nicknames and things. Or use your name. You're an individual. You're probably self-employed. Don't try and be something bigger than you are. Just be yourself, be an individual, show your face. This is really important. Your website, your about page, a nice photo of your face so people can see you, and this is a people buy from people. Remember, you're a sole trader. It's a very personal service. I mean, this is a one-to-one. This is so personal. However you're photographing, it's usually one-to-one, or it's a couple at a wedding, or it's even with a big company, you're dealing with a handful of people. It's really personal, so make it personal and be the individual you are, and that's what people are going to buy into. This is an image where the groom chopped the bride's head off in Cyprus. Okay, quickly, this is great. We need to get down to this. Memories, that is all a photograph is. So I talked about that earlier. And to the people in them, it's going to remind them of that experience. So think about that. Next time you're photographing people, make sure you think, right, are these guys having a good time? Or they stood there bored while I'm back and forth with my light medium things, or I'm worrying about this and that, Master the camera, break things down. Exactly what I said earlier, 3 things: shutter speed, ISO, and aperture. That's the camera. Light in, direction, source, quality. 3 things in each. Okay, get this going. Like driving a car. When you're learning to drive, you you're looking at the clutch, you're looking at the gears, and you just all over the place. Then when you pass your test, then you really learn how to drive, and the smoke out the window, eating a chocolate bar, one hand on the wheel. Then you're enjoying the drive. You're driving down, looking, taking in the scenery. This is driving. Same with photography. You can't be free to be creative and be who you want to be and get where you want to get if you're having to go, right, what am I doing now? So really draw that, make that become second nature. Practice as much as you can, and that's the main thing you need to go out and do. Remember that they're memories. It's our job to make sure it's a good one, and they will love the memory. They'll love the photo. And as I say, the ashtray thing with my mum earlier is a brilliant example for that. And we'll leave on this one. Always remember, if it's not fun, don't do it. And then we're going to quickly go back and have a chat with Jay about a few other things, but that's a quick little insight into my kind of philosophy, I suppose, and my ideas and what I think it takes to be a photographer and the amazing things you can get from being a photographer. And there we go. So let's go back over to Jay.
Well, mate, thanks. I'm spinning, and the feedback in the chat panel, if you could see it, mate, it's just lit up. So you're coming back no matter what. You've got no say in the matter. I'm telling you now, you're coming back, mate. I know we've discussed this. I know you're happy to, so we'll definitely make that happen because you did. It was a whirlwind, but brilliant. Loved it so much, shared, and that's pretty much what we're getting, via the chat panel. So look, we've got a load of questions. So let's start rocking through them, Rich. And I also obviously want to remind people that they can come and see you in January at the convention. I'm just going to rub the screen back. So this is a question that came through quite a few times, so I hung on to it. So obviously looking more maybe at your personal work, maybe not your commissions, but so is the idea there in advance, or is it coming as you're working? What's sort of the planning process, Rich?
Well, that's a brilliant question. So thanks very much for whoever asked that question. This is a great question. Okay, one thing I would have talked about if we had more time is sort of planning, and really planning is the key to everything. There's two types of photography for me. There is planning and coming up with an idea, which is obviously all pre-taking the photograph, and then there is seeing, which is reacting to the situation you're in. So a lot of the work and the personal work, and this is something I talk about, and I've just actually written an article for the SWPP, which is going to be coming out in the next issue, I think, and it's all about shooting personal projects or shooting for free, so to speak, and how they can help you. And no one really needs to know, if you look on my website, it's a combination of commissions and personal things I've shot. Okay, and it doesn't really matter. I could do either or. I could do the personal stuff for a commission and vice versa. So the planning is absolutely everything. And again, we haven't really got loads of time to go into it, but as I say, I'm always trying to think, and a big part of photography is most of the time is just thinking and thinking about images you can create, or thinking about ideas, and then images that appear inside your mind, and then being able to put those onto a piece of paper, or in most cases these days onto the screen. How was that?
Yeah, good, mate. And I think, to be honest, I think you've sort of you've hit on what I think the next webinar should be. Let's take maybe 5 or 6 of your concept images, and let's take them through that thought process. I think that, and we've done webinars like that, been really powerful and positive in the past. So I think that'd be a really good way maybe to approach the next webinar. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you to Richie. I'll get him back for that concept and that ideas webinar, and we'll plan some more with him. So don't forget, guys, all the information about the convention is available on the facebook.com/the Photographer Academy. Use the links that we've posted out to get in touch to find out all about the convention in January. And again, thanks all for joining us. Have a good night.